welcome everybody to a Thursday edition of the Commander's Film Room. I'm your host, George Carmi, here today. I'm here with my co-host, Mark Bullock. Mark, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks. Yourself?
I'm doing great, man. Looking forward to this Jaylen Lane film. I'm really excited about him. He's definitely one of the more intriguing wide receivers, in my opinion, for this draft class. So just a programming note for everybody that's watching. Guys, we'll be filming our Commander Film Room on Wednesdays from 5 p.m. moving forward. Definitely give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. We just want to have consistency going now throughout the summer and moving forward. So definitely give us a like there. And just a shameless plug for Mark as well. Definitely follow his Substack. He has some great written work. He breaks down all the film. The show wouldn't be anything without him. So thank you for having us, and definitely thank you for tuning in. So on that note, Mark, obviously, I think it's a pretty intriguing draft class. We got, we got Connerly that we added, Josh Connerly in the first round, protection for Jaden Daniels. We added Trey Amos to fill out the cornerback room. But I think, the common practice is you want to support your sophomore quarterback, as they're kind of developing while they're on their rookie contract. Washington added Deebo Samuel in the offseason, so they added to the wide receiver room. My question to you is, before even getting Jaylen Lane, did you think that Washington's room was an area of concern? Did they need a little talent infusion, in your opinion? And what was your overall thoughts on Michael Gallup, Noah Brown, Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin?
Yeah, so I thought once they made the move for Deebo, they weren't in desperate need of a wide receiver. They obviously needed something extra over just having McLaurin being their main guy. I think they did a nice job with the other parts they had. Obviously, Noah Brown stepped up at parts last year. De'Ami Brown stepped up towards the end of the year when Noah Brown got hurt. Zacchaeus did a nice job. But once they made the move for Deebo, it was pretty clear that he was going to do a lot of the stuff that that Zacchaeus was doing. So it was obvious that Zacchaeus would move on. And so I felt like it wasn't a huge need. Now, obviously, looking ahead, the only guy under contract before the draft for beyond this season was Luke McCaffrey, I think. So there was some need for some younger players. So I thought they would draft someone. I thought it would be something like they trade back and maybe get a guy in kind of day 3 kind of range. But I didn't think it was a huge priority. I think we saw last year that Jaden Daniels can do a lot with. I don't want to say a little, because the guys they had weren't bad, but I think he can bring up the level of play from other guys, and we saw that with guys like Noah Brown that can be precise with their route running and break it at the right times and be in the right spots. And guys like, as I say, Zacchaeus with their kind of gadget stuff that they want to do, and obviously they've got Deebo to do that now. So. Yeah, I felt like it wasn't a huge priority, but if they could find the right guy, then it would have made sense. But I think I prefer the way they went, which was to solidify the offensive line and then circle back for a receiver later on.
Absolutely. I think they definitely addressed 2 major positions of need, very important positions as well, right? You got an offensive tackle, you got a cornerback with rounds 1 and 2. And then for round 4, 5, and 6, even 7, you're looking at more of high upside, high tradey players. You're trying to find someone with traits to kind of add something to the team and kind of try to latch on to something that they can grow into, right? And I think with Jaylen Lane, it's that athleticism. As all of us kind of follow and kind of pay attention to the relative athletic score, popping off the sheet, looking at Jaylen Lane, a 9.68 RAS score, the 4.34 speed, which is a 90th percentile. His vertical is also in the 96th percentile to 40 inches. And I think that what Washington is hoping for is some sort of explosiveness and some sort of punt returner ability. So far you watched the tape, Mark. Does Jaylen Lane's speed and agility kind of pop on the film?
Absolutely. I think those are 2 of his best traits, or his speed and his, I guess, agility as well. Yeah, the quickness, I would probably call it, is how he can get in and out of routes. Now his route running needs work, and we'll get onto all of that with the film. But the speed is there and it translates, and the quickness is there, and that can translate once he. I think he needs to learn to use it a little bit better within his routes. He uses it really well after the catch, which again we'll see. But yeah, it definitely translates to the field. And yeah, so we'll jump into it, and we'll see how well it translates. And this this first play here is a great example of that. So we've got him in the slot here, and at his size, he's probably a little bit more of a slot profile. He's not like desperately short. He's not like 5'8" like Zacchaeus was, but he is still more of a slot profile. I think he can play some outside. We'll get to that, but he's probably going to be more of a slot guy, and he brings a lot of speed from the slot. And you can see this here. It's not just the speed; it's the deep ball tracking. But we'll just show this first, and it's just the speed. He's running a kind of deep route down the middle of the field, and you can see he just takes off and he runs away. Now the defense doesn't cover it great, but he runs away from the coverage. But if I wind this back a little bit, so I talked about the tracking as well. When you have great deep speed, you can run by the defense, but it's pointless if you can't track the ball in the air and run under it and adjust your route. And this here is a really good example of being able to track the ball. So we've got him here in the middle of the field. Now he is going to run towards this bottom side of the field, away from this safety that's trying to stay on top of him. But you'll notice that he kind of breaks more towards running at the hash marks, and the ball end up throwing out more towards the numbers. And you see he does a really nice job of tracking this. So as we get down the field, he's kind of straight down the middle of the field, and he's kind of keeping it fairly straight. And he's, as you can see, he's kind of just angled towards the hash marks. And you'll see from this throw that it ends up getting way outside the numbers. And he's turned back to locate the ball here. And you see he starts drifting a little bit more further outside, and he gets to the hash marks. And then he gets the hash marks, and he can see the ball, and he's tracking it really well. And he starts going even wider and wider and wider, and he catches that ball out by the numbers when he initially was just kind of getting to the hash marks. So you can see he's tracked that ball really well. So not only has he had the speed to run away from the defense, but he's also at speed been able to turn, locate the ball, and track it and adjust his path to get underneath it. And of course, turn it into a touchdown.
And Mark, that's so important, right? You can have speed to kill, but at the same time, if you can't track the ball in the air, you're kind of not really producing the offense, right? You kind of need that element there. And,
exactly.
And then Washington fans, they know we've had Deshaun Jackson. I mean, they're not in the same realm by any means, but Deshaun Jackson was known for his ball tracking in the air, and he had the ability for big plays. So I'm excited because I think with Washington, with the offensive line and Jaden's strength is throwing the ball downfield, I think it's going to be a good combination.
Yeah, and that's something they can really use is the speed and the deep ball tracking. They obviously lost their main other deep threat outside of Terry McLaurin. There was De'Ami Brown, and obviously lost him in free agency. So this kind of helps that a little bit. It helps negate that. This is another example here of the speed. You've got him outside to the left, but he's going to go in motion pre-snap. And he's just going to turn this motion into a wheel route. So he's going to get that motion to kind of build up a head of steam, and he's just going to turn it into a wheel route down the sideline. He doesn't get the ball here, but the point is just to show how the speed can be a threat to the defense. And this motion, you get a good tell from the defense as well. So normally you'd see if it's man coverage, the guy that's covering him would just follow him across the formation. But what you see here is the safeties kind of rock and roll. So this safety that is over him right now will drop back to the deep middle, whereas this safety in the deep middle will try to work down and pick him up so that they keep that kind of leverage advantage, where he's keeping that leverage on the outside against Lane trying to run up the sideline. But what you'll see is that leverage doesn't matter. He's just got enough speed to outrun the guy. So he runs across the field on that crosser, and you can see that safety's trying to get across. They get a little bit of traffic here that helps, but Lane just suddenly accelerates, and he runs by that safety down the sideline. He's got a step on him already. He's got plenty of field to work with. He's at the bottom of the numbers, so he's got plenty of field outside here to widen and give that quarterback a throwing window. For some reason, the quarterback doesn't work that way. He's working other routes, and he ends up scrambling off this way. But you can see he's got a step, and that safety's not going to catch him. And if you just throw this way out in front of him, Jaylen Lane's going to go run under it and take it for a touchdown. But the quarterback decides to scramble the other way and gets a first down himself. So he doesn't do too badly. But
and Mark, sorry to interrupt you. I know the focus was on Jaylen Lane while you're watching the film. I think one of the critiques that we keep hearing over and over again was Jaylen Lane couldn't necessarily be himself fully because of the quarterback play of Virginia Tech. Is that something that stood out to you a little bit?
Yeah, the quarterback play was pretty rough, and you'll see some of that. It did help highlight some of his other attributes. We'll see some of that, but it was pretty rough, and so it did limit what he could do, certainly down the field. I said earlier about him potentially lining up outside and running down the field using his speed on the outside. I think he can do it, and this is kind of an example of that. If he gets that kind of nice release, he's just got the burst to run by a guy, and you can see it. Again, he doesn't get the ball on this play, but this just is an example of his speed. So he's on the outside, he's running a go route. He gets himself a little stutter release, and he just kind of dips his shoulder, gets by the guy, and you can see he's already got 2 yards past the guy, and it's only 10 yards down the field. And so that's just how quick he is. He can accelerate to top speed. He's got a great top speed, but he can also accelerate and get to it very quickly. And yeah, in the NFL, this is an open shot down the sideline. Unfortunately, again, we talk about the quarterback. He ends up getting hit or something as he threw, and he didn't get it. But so that's the kind of speed that he does bring to Washington, and we can see how that would translate to Washington's offense directly. So this was a Dyami Brown touchdown from week 4 last year against the Browns. We didn't see this a hell of a lot from Dyami Brown. I thought we would have seen it a little bit more, but this is the kind of play that I think we could see from Jaylen Lane if you move him outside, and you let him line up outside sometimes. You just see the acceleration. So he eats up that cushion from the corner real quick, who's trying to just bail out. He gets up to him really quick, and then he bursts even faster on outside as he kind of fakes going inside and gets outside, and then he just accelerates away from the guy, and the guy can't keep up from him. And that's what we just saw a minute ago with Lane. Just he was in press coverage and got by the guy earlier, whereas this guy was bailing, so it took Brown a few more steps, but he got down the sideline, and Jaden Daniels found him for a touchdown. So and we talked earlier about the ball tracking, how important that is. And this is just a really good example of Terry McLaurin, who's one of the best at deep ball tracking against the Eagles. And Quinyon Mitchell up here on an island, and Jaden Daniels got a blitz, and we'll ignore all the rest of it because the rest of it isn't relevant to this. This is all about Terry McLaurin and his deep ball tracking. He gets into the numbers, starts accelerating outside, but keeps himself at numbers, and then he's tracking the ball. And at this point, it's just follow where the ball goes. It's not, okay, I beat the guy, I just work vertical, or I need to work outside towards the sideline. It's just track the ball, follow the ball, and you can watch how he's got his head turned, he's located the ball, he's tracking it, and you can see how he adjusts to it at the last second. I think I've got the end zone angle of that as well.
It's one of my favorite catches of the year. I love that throw.
Yeah. Great throw to give his guy a chance, so under pressure with a guy in his face. But great job. You can see McLaurin is tracking this here. He's a couple yards outside the numbers, and he tracks this all the way nicely to his outside shoulder, makes that catch, gets himself in for the touchdown. So that's the importance of that ball tracking. A lot of receivers might have lost track of that ball and just kept going vertically, or they would have broken out towards the sideline and not been able to make that catch. Terry did a great job tracking that. I think Jaylen Lane, I just showed on that first play, did a real nice job of tracking that deep ball. So that's a transferable skill, not just to the NFL, but specifically to this offense.
Absolutely. And sorry to interrupt you, Mark. Let's just jump in real quick. I think that's what I'm trying to be objective and being realistic. As a 4th round pick, obviously there might be some warts in his game. I'm sure we're going to get to that later on in the film study. I think with Lane, that speed, that ball tracking that you're alluding to, I think Daniels is going to at least amplify it a tiny bit. I see Lane more of as maybe not a high volume type of wide receiver, but more of an explosive big play wide receiver every once in a while. Because I do think that the Commanders' offensive line is better than Virginia Tech's. I think another criticism was VT's offensive line was pretty weak, so they couldn't have these well-developed plays. And I think Jaden has a better touch on the ball downfield, so I think there will be some opportunities for some downfield shots. So I think that's kind of what we're looking for with Lane. I don't know if you necessarily agree with that.
Yeah, no, I think he I'll get into a little bit more of the role a little bit further into the study, because there's some stuff with his role that
You'll see
I think we'll see. But yeah, I think he can be effective straight away as a deep threat. We'll see how frequently he's used. But so we talked about the speed. The deep threat ability is definitely something that translates. The other thing was the quickness and the agility stuff. He has really good quickness. He's really good at being able to get in and out of his routes quickly. Now, his route running, as I mentioned, does need work still in setting things up, and we'll get to a little bit more of that. but this just shows the quickness he can have in and out of breaks. So this is what's known as a Seattle sail. So it's a sail concept. This outside receiver is running deep down the field. You've got, I think it's a tight end actually sifts out to the flat as an underneath guy. So you've got a receiver running deep, a receiver running underneath, and then you've got Lane running the sail route in between them to kind of stretch all three levels of the defense. But the difference of this sail route to a normal one, the Seattle sail is designed to look like an over route. Like we saw earlier with Lane, he ran that deep over route and caught the touchdown. This is designed to look like that, like he's going across the middle of the field and then have the quickness to put your foot in the ground and cut sharply back outside towards the sideline. And you'll see why that's such a nice variation here. So you'll see Lane comes across and he turns his head inside and he's fully positioned himself like he's running this over route, and he gets his defender to start working inside with him, thinking, oh God, I've got to try to catch up with him going across the field. We talked about with Trey Amos how hard it is to cover crossing routes when you're a defensive back. You're always out leveraged. So he's already starting to get into a sprint to try to catch up, and suddenly Lane puts his foot in the ground, has the quickness to stop and turn back outside, and this guy suddenly turned around and he's got the separation. Now again, the throw is a little bit late, a little bit behind, not great place, and then he has to stop. A good throw leads him out towards the sideline. He's able to turn up the field and turn this into a bigger play. Absolutely. But he's able to come back to the ball, make a catch, and gets touchdown. Short of what could have been a huge gain, but it's still a nice play. So that kind of shows the quickness that he has. This is another example. He goes across the field in motion here, and he runs almost a choice route. I don't think it's quite a choice route based on the other routes that are run out here, but it's the similar kind of idea where he kind of gets up on the foot of this safety. He's going to come down and try to cover him. He's going to get up on his feet and then cross his face and get inside. And on a choice route, you would kind of loop this a little bit wider towards the hash marks and have the option to either break inside or outside or sit back down based on the coverage. And this is something that I think once he develops his route running a little bit more, this could be where he wins a lot because he has the quickness to do that. But this is just an example. So that safety comes across, and you can see he kind of just gives a little stutter and a skip and a hop, and he gets that guy flat-footed, and he's able to cut across his face, and then he's able to accelerate away from him. And we talked about the quarterback not being great, and that kind of showing some other traits from him. Now, you can see here, this corner's attaching to this crosser. We got a safety down deep, and there's all this space over here. So a good pass out in front. There's every chance Jaylen Lane runs onto this and takes it for a touchdown. But unfortunately, the throw is dreadful and it's behind him. But it does show Jaylen Lane's ball skills. And we'll see it from the end zone angle. And he still gets some good yards after the catch on that. But we'll see it from this end zone angle. He gets across the face of that safety, and you can see him here just coming into the picture. And the quarterback under pressure, you give him some credit, at least he got the throw away. But you can see he's gone back across his body at speed. He's done a full 180-degree turn at speed, been able to make this catch low and away from himself, and still be able to turn out of it quickly while securing the pass and keep speed down the field. So he's done a really nice job of, you see the ball skills, the ability to track the ball, but the body control to be able to adjust to bad throws and still make catches, and then still be able to pick up yards after the catch without losing too much momentum. So that was a really impressive play.
And Mark, really quick, sorry to interrupt you again, but I know you definitely watched Scream, you watched the playmaking, kind of like, the overall big picture. But did you notice if Lane is more of a body catcher, more of a hand catcher? Did he catch the ball pretty naturally for the most part?
He catches the ball really well. He's a good hands catcher. And you can see that obviously on that kind of play. You can see the ability to reach away from his body behind him. This is another really good example here where he's got another bad throw. He's just running an out route here from the slot. This outside receiver is going to run a go route and clear out the space underneath, and Lane's going to run into it. And again, it's not the best route. We'll get into more of that in a minute. But the throw is inside, and you see him be able to turn. And I think you'll see it from the end zone angle is a little bit of a better angle of just how good of a catch this was. It's kind of blurry, but you can see he's kind of turned 360. He's gone back on himself. He's got his hands up and away to go and reach that ball that's kind of thrown high and behind him. And he's still gone and made the catch. The defender's coming in trying to punch the ball out, but he secures it and completes the play. So that kind of shows he's got good ball skills as well as quickness in and out of routes. So I think as a route runner, that quickness is a trait that should enable him to develop as a route runner. And quickness is almost more important than deep speed when you're talking about route running, because you need to be able to get in and out of breaks quickly and efficiently without, if sometimes you see those deep speed guys, they're long strides, they build up speed, they take a while to get in and out of their breaks because they take too long to kind of slow down once they get to top speed. Whereas Lane has the quickness to be able to slow down quickly and stop and make a sharp cut and then get back up to speed real quick. So that means he has the traits to become a good route runner. I don't think he's ever necessarily had to be a good route runner. I think he's just been a better athlete than a lot of guys, so he's not had to develop that part of his game. And part of the role that he plays in this Virginia Tech offense kind of stops him from developing into a great route runner as well. But this is just an example of where the route running could still use some work. So he's going to motion across the formation here, and he's going to run, again, what kind of looks like it might be a choice route this time. And he breaks outside. He just takes too many steps in this. He's got the quickness where he doesn't need to. He can just get up on a guy quickly, make one stutter step and go and make his cut. This, you see, he does a little hop and a skip and a jump and get real close to the guy and let the guy get his hands on him. So you'll see this here. He comes across in motion. Guy follows him across. He gets in a stack set, so he gets his free release. He comes inside, and you see already 2 steps in, he's starting to stutter. He keeps stuttering a couple yards further. He gets even closer to the guy and is still doing different stutter moves. And that allows him, he gets too close to the DB who's able to get his hands on him, get a shove on him. And that's enough to kind of push him off balance and come away from the break rather than make a sharp cut either inside or outside. And that means he comes out of the break kind of falling over because
I saw that.
Had contact with the DB. So that's kind of a little insight into where he needs to improve as a route runner, is that he's trying to do a little too much. He's trying to show like 5 different stutter moves, and sometimes just with his quickness, one would do the job. I mean, and Mark, go ahead. I'll just let this one through because it's an incredible play from the quarterback afterwards. But and they go
great play. That's a fantastic play by the quarterback.
Yeah,
we talked about it. So we've been doing film study for about a year now between you and I, and even Nick and Doug was on here as well. But we talk about like geometry, angles. We talk about just precision, right? I feel like with the NFL, it's all about having a game of inches. You basically have to be able to leverage your position, right? So I think you kind of alluded to it. As a wide receiver, you have to be precise. You have to be crisp. So maybe that's definitely an area of growth. You saw that the extra steps that he put in took away some of the advantage that he had. My question for you, though, he was number 25 in that last clip. Is that earlier in his career? Is that what that was?
No, that was Virginia Tech do some, I'm not 100% sure what it is. They have a thing where they're like honoring a player each week, and that player gets the number 25 He had 2 or 3 games this year where he wore number 25. It was quite off-putting when I first did, because I was trying to find out where he was on the field. I'm like, I'm sure he had like 5 catches in this game. I've not seen him on the field once.
That's funny.
But I had to look it up and found actually no, he was wearing 25 that game. So yes, that was definitely still him.
So real quickly, sorry to interrupt you, Mark. So we have a Virginia Tech fan in our show. So thank you, Tommy, for watching. He says they honor Frank Beamer by wearing number 25. Tommy, you can tell us why, the rationale behind it. The special team guys get it. Okay. So basically, essentially, the special team specialist gets number 25. Thank you, Tommy. I appreciate that.
There you go. So they the route running needs to improve. It is very raw, and I say the traits are there for him to develop into a really good route runner, but it might take him a year or 2 for him to get fully up to speed on that. And part of the reason why that route running isn't fully developed, as I said, kind of he's just been a better athlete than a lot of guys he's faced in college, and he will be still very fast compared to a lot of guys in the NFL. Like, not everyone has 4.3 speed, but in the NFL, it's a lot more parity in terms of athletes. So he won't just be able to out-athlete anyone. He will have to learn the precision of route running. And I think we saw that a little bit last year. The guys that Jaden Daniels threw the ball to consistently were guys that he could trust to be in the right spot at the right time, make the right cut at the right time. He could throw with anticipation, get the ball out before they were breaking. It was guys, obviously Terry McLaurin was good at that, but guys like Noah Brown was really good at that. Zach Ertz was really good at that, and it was these veterans that he knew he could trust to be in the right spot at the right time. And the guys that didn't get the ball a lot, you think about the rookies last year, Luke McCaffrey and Ben Sinnott, they're guys that are a little bit more raw when it comes to route running, and maybe part of the reason they didn't have a ton of production last year is because Jaden prefers guys that he can trust to be in the right spot at the right time. So for Lane, he could be more of just a deep threat in his first year, and while he's learning how to be a route runner, it could take him, as I say, the typical thing with receivers is it takes them 3 years to fully get up to NFL speed. Hopefully it doesn't do that for him. I think there's other ways you can get him involved, but I think a lot of the ways that Virginia Tech used him are very good and very creative ways. I also think they're kind of the stuff that they're going to be saving for Deebo Samuel. So I'll get into it here. I'll just show the traits. Can I ask one
question? I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel like Virginia Tech, from what I understand, from what I've been reading, they definitely use him as more of a gadget player, more of a horizontal threat to kind of like yards after catch, from what I gathered.
Yes.
And you are alluding to he might be used as more of a deep threat. Is what I saw from the previous couple plays, it kind of seemed like a Jameson Crowder type of wide receiver. Is that fair to say? And do you kind of see him in that aspect? And do you think he's also challenging Luke McCaffrey this year? I'm trying to find where he would fit, because I'll also pause and say Cliff Kingsbury is very creative. They're gonna have so many packages for him throughout the year, so there might not be an apples and apples comparison. I'm just kind of putting a visual on it.
Yeah, so I think he can develop into kind of a Jamison Crowder kind of guy, but with more deep speed. But the route running isn't there. Crowder was a really, really good route runner coming out of college because he didn't have the deep speed. He had really, really good quickness, and he was excellent on those kind of choice routes that I talked about. And so he could get in and out of a break real good and real quickly, but he didn't have the elite speed to run away from guys. Whereas Lane has the quickness, he just doesn't know how to use it yet, I don't think. I think he just takes a few too many steps and stutters and tries to do a little bit too much, and he could just be a little bit sharper there. But he has the deep speed to do a little bit more than what Crowder could bring to the offense. And I think I remember that year when I think Deshaun Jackson left and Jameson Crowder kind of tried to play outside. He tried to play a little bit of Z well as being in the slot. And he struggled a little bit outside because he didn't have the speed to go with that quickness. And they kind of moved him back into the slot, and he was more effective there. So the role for Lane is a little bit difficult to project, because the things that I think he could do well from day one, as I say, is stuff that I think Deebo Samuel will be the main target of. And we'll see that here. So we talk about kind of a gadget-y type of player that you get the ball in his hands and you let him work after the catch, and he's really good after the catch. And this is kind of an example here. We've got just a jet sweep motion. I think he actually goes around the back of the quarterback here, but we'll ignore that bad diagramming from me. He turns a motion into a swing screen, and you just see the speed and acceleration from him. So yeah, he works around the back of the quarterback and is a little bit of an RPO. They have a chance to hand it off or throw that based on what kind of look they get from the defense. And when you see this look out here, you've got the slot blitzing, you got safety deep, and you got the guy trying to trail Lane from the other side of the field. You've got the slot receiver being able to pick that up, and it's basically then Lane on a safety. So you get a pretty good look to swing that ball out to the flat here. And this is a pretty nice look, premier look, and then you can see Lane does a nice job of not just trying to sprint down the sideline. He kind of builds up slowly, lets his blocks develop, kind of gets this guy to bite outside and opens up that lane to get back inside. You can see the safety's also doing the same thing, so that's giving him a little room to work with. And then you see he gets to here, and this is where he turns on the jets and really accelerates as he cuts inside. He runs through the arm tackle of the safety, and then another guy helps bring him down. But it's a nice gain, there was a 20-yard gain on just a swing screen, right? Here's another one, a tunnel screen this time, same kind of deal. You're going to get the slot receiver and the left tackle getting out in front, blocking for him. The outside receiver is going to block for him. He's going to just step back and take a tunnel screen. And he's going to show good patience as he gets the ball in his hand, lets his blocks develop in front of him. And you can see this guy's coming inside, trying to come across, and he's just going to cut back inside of that nicely. And he nearly breaks it, and you'll see it better from the end zone angle, how nicely he kind of stays in control. He has the top gear to get to, but he just keeps himself in control, works through these different blocks, around these different blocks and lets them develop. And then once he finds the lane, you can see he starts to accelerate away. Unfortunately, his own teammate kind of gets in his way a little bit, and that allows that last guy just to bring him down. Otherwise, it could have been a touchdown. But we can see how that translates to Washington's offense. And anyone that watched Washington last year saw a million different screens and like tunnel screens and stuff and RPOs. This was obviously that championship game against the Lions, or divisional game against the Lions, and it's just Terry McLaurin's tunnel screen. They've got an RPO where they can hand it off based on the numbers, and the numbers tell Jayden Daniels to throw this tunnel screen outside, and Terry McLaurin catches it, and you get, again, that kind of premier look where you've got two good blockers in front and you got nobody really deep, and those blocks work. McLaurin gets through there, and then it's off to the races, and McLaurin wins that race, and I think Jaylen Lane would probably win that race too. So that's kind of the direct translation of those kind of screens, and you can kind of see from those screens why people, well, not just why people think he could be a punt returner or a kick returner, why he can be a good punt returner and kick returner, because he was a good one in college. And I think that's certainly something they will be looking for him to do as he transitions to the NFL. Like, a lot of his impact early on could be the return game.
Hey, Mark, really quickly. Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to highlight some of the comments on the chat. The Spaceman said, Jadavian clowning everyone, kind of joking with it a little bit. But then he said something very positive. I appreciate it. Just enjoying the breakdown, guys. You and Logan Paulson are hands-on the best for us football nerds. So thank you for that. I really do appreciate that. We were obviously working hard for you guys. Tommy said the Virginia Tech offense did not help the wide receivers out at all. And he said Jaylen Lane, he finds the lane. You see what I did there. So thank you for guys watching. Thank you for the comments. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so that return, you can see on those screens why he will be a good return guy. He does a really nice job. He obviously has the speed to go to, but he does a really nice job running in control and allowing his blocks to set up. And then once he finds the lane, he can explode through it. Mm-hmm. But he can also do a little bit more than just what we saw in those kind of RPOs. He can be more of a gadget guy. He can do more of the different like trick plays that we saw Cliff Kingsbury do a really nice job of like Austin Eckler getting some of these kind of things. And, Jeremy McNichols got some of it. Zacchaeus got some of it. Obviously, I think a lot of that will be targeted to Debo, and they still got McNichols and Eckler that will get some of the targets on that kind of stuff. But if, say, Debo Samuel was to get hurt, which he has been hurt in the past, and you have a guy that can do some of this stuff, and this is how good he can be at some of this stuff. So this is a nice little reverse here. So you've got a receiver in the slot that's going to come on a jet sweep and actually get the ball, and then he's going to toss it back, and Lane's going to reverse around. And we'll run it through here. So he gets the toss here, and you can see at this point, there's quite a few guys on this backside, and particularly this guy that sees that ball tossed to him, and he adjusts to try to get back to Lane and make this into potentially a huge loss. Now Lane knows he is quicker than this big guy. Now this big guy is obviously very intimidating. He's not going to run through that guy, but he is going to be able to run around him. So Lane does a nice job. Gives depth to be able to gain depth further on. So he gives some yards to get around him. And then he knows he can get the edge and pick those yards back up as he gets down the sideline. And suddenly, after making a couple free defenders miss, suddenly you've got this whole open field down the sideline here. And all you've got is this one guy. And now credit to the quarterback. I said the quarterbacks didn't help the receivers a lot. He helps them here. And not in the traditional quarterback way. But look at this from the quarterback. Go make a block for your guy. And Lane does a nice job, again, staying in control and then having the acceleration down the sideline. We'll see it from the end zone angle a little bit better here. Does a nice job making that guy miss. Great job from the quarterback, again, making that block. And you can see he stays in control. A lot of guys would just accelerate down that sideline and give this guy a chance to just peel off and make the play and push him out of bounds. He allows his quarterback to go make the block. And then once he's kind of level, it's okay, now I'm going to turn on the jets. Now I'm going to accelerate down that sideline. Now I'm going to make sure that this guy's not going to be able to come across and make the play. And I'm going to get in for the end zone for the touchdown. So you can see the kind of the reverse there that he does. And you can think of the different ways that you could play that into the Commander's offense. So this is something you want to jump in?
Yeah, let me jump in real quick. So you keep alluding that, Debo Samuel's going to potentially play that role in our offense. I agree with that. I think Debo will do that, but I think Cliff is creative enough to have some variations and kind of implement different packages. And I definitely see Jaylen Lane potentially doing this as well, even giving Debo Samuel a blow and letting him take the field. So that's a great play.
Yeah, for sure. And that's part of the exciting thing is that I can see how he would fit in the Cliff Kingsbury offense, and I think he could have a really big impact in year one if they didn't have Debo Samuel, because as we talked about with Zacchaeus, did a lot of this kind of stuff last year, and he was really good at it. But they brought in Debo Samuel for a reason, right? He's going to be the guy that they want getting those targets, getting the ball on those kind of plays, and so I think Debo is going to be a priority for this year. And obviously, if, as we said, if Debo were to get injured or if he needs a breather or whatever, it's nice to have that guy that you can plug in and still run those same plays, still have that access to that part of your offense. And that was something they struggled with last year. When Eckler went down, it was kind of Zacchaeus or nothing. So having multiple guys that can do that really adds a lot to your offense. But this is more of the stuff that he can add. So we saw this a little bit from Washington last year, not a huge amount, but a little bit, where they, instead of having a running back, sometimes they did it with a running back, where it was Austin Eckler out in the slot, and they'd run a jet sweep, and they'd have what would be called an inverted quarterback power, or I think this might have been a GT counter or whatever it was. It was a quarterback run scheme where instead of normally it'd be a read option, and the quarterback would be reading this defensive end, and he'd either be, if the end crashes inside, the quarterback would be taking it to the edge and the running back would be going inside. This time, the effective running back, in this case it's Jaylen Lane, is the guy that would be going to the edge. And if this guy kind of goes upfield and sticks with that, it's going to leave a lane inside for the quarterback to run. And as I say, they did this a little bit with Jaden Daniels. You'll see it here is how they do it with Jaylen Lane. He goes across on that jet sweep, and you can see the quarterback here is reading this unblocked guy. And if he goes up the field, which is what he does, the quarterback can keep it. If he crashes inside on the run and worries about the quarterback, then suddenly you can give the ball off to Jaylen Lane, who can just use his speed on basically the same thing as that kind of swing screen that we saw earlier. But you can see this guy just focuses on Jaylen Lane, doesn't think that quarterback's going to keep the ball at all. And now suddenly you can see there's a real nice lane emerging for the quarterback to keep the ball, because you have that pulling guard wrapping around for this guy, and the quarterback's able to go and make a nice run. I can't remember whether I include the end zone angle of this or not. Yeah, I did. Okay, so you get a better look at it here. You can see the quarterback can read this guy who is just focused purely on lane, and that means he can just follow his pulling lineman around who's going to block this guy, and suddenly you've got this nice big lane, and you can just imagine what Jaden Daniels could do.
Let's say, Mark, imagine with a Heisman Trophy winner, Rookie of the Year prospect back there instead.
Exactly.
That's fantastic.
And this is another thing that they didn't really get too much into last year. You see it more in the kind of Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay stuff, where they fake these end arounds, but it just kind of shows how defenses have to respect his ability and his quickness. So this is just a read option play inside with Lane faking an end around, but you can see the effect that it has on the defense. And specifically, watch this guy here. He's meant to be filling in here as a run defender, but because Jaylen Lane runs around the back as a decoy, he runs outside to the edge. And I think I drew it up here. Yeah, you can see this guy should be in this gap ready to tackle the running back. But because Jaylen Lane has looped around the end on an end around, he has to work outside to respect that. And what that does is open up a huge running lane inside for the running back. And the running back takes the ball, takes the handoff, and runs it in nice and easily for a touchdown. So he's got that kind of that almost gravity to him.
Exactly.
Where he can take defenders away. This is another example of that gravity, a similar kind of thing that we just saw a minute ago, where it's actually a quarterback draw, and it's a really nice scheme in the red zone to be able to use, especially in the low red zone where it's within 5 yards. And you'll see here Lane, he goes around the back of the quarterback here, but it's the same kind of idea, and it's going to look like he's going to kind of pitch this off to him, and the running back's going to be a lead blocker for him, and you've got a pulling guard going that way, so it looks like everything's going out here, and you can see all the defenders going out there. And then suddenly the quarterback keeps it, and you can see kind of this lane emerge inside here. And the quarterback does a nice job. And again, you just think Jaden Daniels is going to be very good on this kind of thing, where you can see all the defense, all their eyes are on Lane out here. And what that does is that opens up nice blocking angles for the offensive line, and the quarterback does a nice job finding that lane and getting in for the touchdown.
Mark,
So,
you're gonna be pumped for football season, man. Look, I'm looking forward to watching this film. This is fantastic. I mean, but I do like being humble, kind of being realistic about it. I see where you're coming from. He does play a very, very similar role to Deebo Samuel. I can definitely see those wrinkles and that gravity going towards Deebo and creating these open holes for Jayden. But I think it's a great problem to have a prospect to develop under this whole regime. And I think it's going to be interesting and fun watching Cliff, deploy all this.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I think he might be limited in his rookie year, because his route running still isn't up to NFL standards yet. Maybe that is something that he comes in and develops real quickly, because he could be a smart guy. He could pick up things real quick. Like we didn't expect Jayden Daniels to pick things up really quick, and he came in and did that. So maybe that is something he can pick up really quick. But that route running does take a while usually to develop. And for him to cut out those unnecessary steps and learn obviously a new playbook and a new route tree and where he being at the right place at the right time, building that trust with Jayden Daniels that we saw rookies last year kind of struggle with a little bit. So
hey, real quick, Mark, I was going to give a couple of shout outs to people in the chat if you don't mind. Real quickly, Marcus said, "What's up, George? Jaylen Lane reminds me of Deshaun Jackson. I know they had some sort of physical comps. I think the ball tracking for Deshaun Jackson was special, though. That's a different level in your opinion, right, Mark? A little bit.
Deshaun had a little bit more speed. He had he was probably the best ball tracker that the NFL has seen.
Right? Yeah, for sure.
And he also had an extra gear to go to. He could cruise at kind of 4.2 speed, and if he needed to, he could get up to 4.1 speed to accelerate a guy and go chase a deep ball that was a little bit overthrown. So he was special a little bit.
And Mark, I don't know if you're necessarily a big comp guy, but Spaceman Smith said he sees Christian Kirk a little bit, sees some comps there. I don't know if you agree with that at all.
I could see it in the way that Cliff might use him as kind of a vertical slot guy. Kirk didn't have the same speed that Lane has, but Kirk has similar quickness. If anything, Kirk had a little bit better quickness, and Kirk was a better route runner. But in terms of being a kind of slot profile that can be a vertical threat from the slot, that I could see some similarities there for sure.
Gotcha. A couple more if you don't mind.
Sure.
Tommy said, "Rookie reports football tomorrow." I'm pumped about that too. So football, you can kind of feel it in the air a little bit. I like that.
Yep.
And here's a technical one, Mark. Where is he on route running versus man? Does he understand zone defenses and knowing when to sit down and set zone concepts? Good question, Shiny Ones.
Yeah, so a lot of those kind of sitting down in zone things are built into routes. So it's just learning, if you're reading zone and you're not having a guy follow you in man coverage, then you need to sit this route down at a certain point. The type of routes that you ran in college weren't really that style. As you see, a lot of the stuff is kind of behind the line of scrimmage, the kind of Gadget stuff, or it's go deep kind of thing. We're about to see a few different things, but it's more crossing routes and stuff. So he didn't have the same. You didn't get to see the examples of it essentially. So it's hard to say that he understood like, oh yeah, I'm feeling zone coverage. I need to sit myself down here, and this is where the hole is, and I need to adjust my route slightly. So yeah, you didn't see the examples of it because the Virginia Tech offense didn't ask that of him. And I don't think the Commanders offense will ask that of him necessarily in the first year. In terms of man coverage, like again, the speed is the big threat there. He has the speed to run by pretty much anyone. If they have the protection and the ability to give him a chance to go deep. We didn't really see him have too much of a chance to face physical press coverage, and that's always the tough thing for receivers when they face the NFL is the physicality and the quality of consistent press coverage that they'll face. So the ability to release off the line of scrimmage will be a question that we just don't know the answer to yet because he didn't have that obstacle facing him in college. So it's kind of a wait and see on those, and those are kind of the reasons why you do see most receivers take a couple years to develop. But as I say, I think the traits are there. The quickness, the elusiveness, the deep speed are all there to become a really good receiver, which is why I'm quite high on him. But I think in terms of year one impact, unless that route running really develops, the main way that he would be used is kind of the same stuff that we've talked about Deebo Samuel being used. So his pathway just might be a little bit blocked.
It makes sense. Hearing from you, sorry to interrupt you, but from here, trying to catch in the tone from you talk, we work together all the time. It sounds like he has raw potential, athletic traits, still needs to work on his route running a little bit. And right now, he needs to find his niche in the actual offense because he does a lot of parallel things with Deebo Samuel. What Tommy said was pretty interesting, and we'll see how things shake out. But I forgot that Wes Welker was added to our wide receiver staff, so it's going to be kind of cool to see him work with us a lot with wide receivers, see how that develops a little bit.
Yeah, and Welker was a very, very good route runner. Obviously, kind of grew up in that Brady era where it was you have to be in the exact right place at the exact right time, or you are not getting the ball. So that is a perfect guy for him to try to learn that kind of stuff from. So yeah, that is the perfect kind of mentor for him. We'll see, obviously, being that guy on the field as Welker was, and being that kind of coach off the field are two very different things. So it doesn't always translate. But I don't know how good Welker is as a coach. Hopefully, he's got some stuff that he can pass on. But yeah, that's very much a good study for him. Is a guy like Wes Welker to learn that route running. But I thought we've just finished the last few clips. I talked about the yards after catch ability. And I think that's something that can translate right away. We talked about, again, it's more stuff that you want to see guys like Deebo and Terry getting necessarily more than a rookie like Lane, but it's stuff that he can do as well. So this, you'll see a couple of different crossing routes here. This is a kind of intermediate crossing route. And he does a nice job. It shows a couple of different traits here. So the first thing is ball skills. So he kind of runs this around here, and you can see the quarterback's reading over here, and he's coming back inside to this crossing route. He's wearing 25 again here, and he loops around this underneath zone. Well, not zone. Yeah, he is a zone defender. He's a plugger, so it's man coverage, but he's plugging, and he kind of runs free into this gap. Now the quarterback, rather than leading him up the field, he kind of brings him shallower and towards this corner and leads him into a hit. So what Lane does really impressively here is he goes up and gets this ball, knowing that he could get exposed. So again, there's good ball tracking, good ball skills, the ability to go up and get the ball well above it's a really high throw, so it's well above his frame. He's gone up and got it. So that's a good trait for one. Two, he's not afraid of taking that hit in the ribs that a lot of receivers might be when they have to extend above their head. And three, he not only does he make that catch, he then goes and breaks the tackle, dodges another defender, and gets inside and turns up the field for more yards after the catch. So it's more impressive from this angle. You'll see him again. The quarterback kind of sails that throw. He goes up and makes that catch with that threat of hitting him being right there, and he's able to secure the catch, get down, break through an arm tackle, get up the field, and go turn this into an even bigger play. He picks up another sort of 15, nearly 20 yards after the catch. So that's one example. Another kind of slot deep over route here. Again, this is the way that I think he will probably be used in his rookie year, is these kind of routes, unless, as I say, if there's an injury to Deebo, or if Cliff is super creative and they manage to do this kind of stuff with both Deebo and him, and maybe you see Deebo in the backfield as a running back at times and stuff, and then Lane can get on the field doing this kind of the Deebo stuff. But otherwise, as kind of a traditional receiver, I think if he's in the slot, it'll be this kind of deep over route and the vertical stuff. So again, he just runs across the middle of the field, and this over route is not a particularly amazing route. He's just got the speed to run away from guys, but he makes the catch that's a little bit behind him. He's had to kind of turn and break stride a little bit to get there. But he makes this catch at the 26, 25-ish yard line. And this doesn't look like an amazing amount, but he's able to break through a couple tackles, and he gets tackled down at the 15, 14. That's 10 or 12 yards after the catch. So again, it doesn't look like anything particularly amazing, but 10 to 12 yards after the catch is really nice, right?
Absolutely.
And how that can translate to the Commanders' offense, you can see on this one. This is one of the best kind of RPO yak opportunities they had, where against the Steelers, Terry's running this little kind of drift strike route. You've got the option to hand this ball off inside, but they don't. The safety rotates down deep, and Terry breaks open into that area, and then it's him versus the safety. He takes off, and it's this play where it's like, how on earth does he get caught? I'm shocked that I still don't understand how he got caught, because Terry's a fast guy. Jaylen Lane, I don't think, gets caught in that situation, and those are the kind of opportunities that this offense does enable a lot of guys and offer a lot of these guys. So there would be opportunities for him to make those kind of catches and pick up yards after the catch. So again, he does fit the offense really well. There is definitely roles for him within the system. It's just whether he might be blocked. And by Debo and Terry being the guys that you kind of want to get the ball in their hands more than you want a 4th round rookie, right?
But I'll throw this out there, Mark. I think I agree with you. I think in regard to passing plays, in regard to receptions, he might be blocked in regard to that, but I think he's going to address every week, right? Because I feel like you do kind of dress maybe 5 or 6 wide receivers every game. I think he's going to have the opportunity to be the punt returner from the very first day, and there might be some packages. Do you agree with that as well? For like some
100%.
Okay,
he'll definitely dress. I'd be surprised if he doesn't win the return job, both punt and kick returner.
Got it.
So he'll have that impact day one. As I say, if there's any kind of injury or Debo needs a breather, he offers that versatility to do that kind of role as well, which is really nice to have as a backup. Whether Cliff can be really creative and find ways to get both of them on the field doing that kind of stuff at the same time, if anyone can, it's Cliff. But I thought I'd just end on one more yak. This is just another shallow cross from the slot, and it's a play where it goes off script. The pressure the quarterback drops the snap and pressure gets to him, and it is all kind of chaos, and he just kind of scrambles around, and Lane keeps running across the field and making himself available, and suddenly he's in all this space down the field, and he's just able to make that catch. Again, another throw that's behind him, he adjusts to it, and he's able to burst out of the throw behind him, makes a guy miss, breaks an arm tackle, stays on his feet, gets down the sideline, still stays on his feet, and just finally the last guy knocks him out. But he just to finish it on the end zone angle of that, there's a lot of chaos, but kind of goes off script. And so what's this? 1 broken tackle, 2 missed tackles, gets shoved there, that's 3. He keeps his feet shoved here, 4 still kind of going, and finally he stumbles, and the 5th guy's able to knock him out of bounds, but it's still a pretty nice play.
Very nice.
So that's the ability he has after the catch. So I think overall there is a lot to like about him. I went into it not knowing really anything about him, and I came out of it thinking this is a really good player that can contribute very early, I think. But then I thought about what ways is he going to contribute, and the ways he can contribute straight away is vertically as a kind of deep threat from either outside or as a slot receiver. They can get vertical from both of those positions. But those vertical guys in this offense, especially with a guy like Debo, are more often than not, they're distractions, they're decoys, they're running down the field to create space underneath. So that it will be an option, and there will be plays where he can get the ball on those kind of things. And when we saw that, those deep overs or just a go route down the sideline, that there will be those options. But like we saw with De'Ami Brown last year, it is more decoy than anything else. So that will be somewhat limited. The ability after the catch is legit and plays, I think, straight away. But again, it's do you want him doing the kind of shallow crosses and the gadget stuff, or do you want that being Debo? And they're paying Debo a hell of a lot more money than they're paying Jaylen Lane, and Debo has kind of a NFL pedigree of doing that stuff. So I think he's a really good prospect. I think he could develop into a really, really good receiver for them. And he has all the traits from quickness and not just speed, but quickness in and out of breaks standpoint to develop into a really nice route runner. It's whether he can learn the kind of leverage stuff and setting up routes using the different tempos to get a kind of DB into a position that he wants to manipulate that and create a separation for himself out of the break. That's all very nuanced stuff that he never really had to do in college. So it might take him a year or two, or maybe even 3. Like I say, a lot of receivers do take 3 years to get up to that kind of speed. But I think the traits are all there. And so I think he's a really good pick. Certainly in the 4th round, it's really good upside to go for. And I think he'll have an impact day 1 as a returner and can be kind of vertical threat. It'll just be up to how good of a route runner he can become, how quickly he can become a good route runner, as to the highest level of impact that you could potentially reach in year 1.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Mark. Like we alluded to it, like as you know, we even looked at our 1st round pick and our 2nd round pick. This is our 3rd installment of the Commanders film room so far. And even with Connolly, even with Amos, there's areas of growth, right? They're college prospects, you're coming out, you're looking for traits, you're looking for high qualities. I think what Jaylen Lane offers is there is that immediate impact with the punt return game. I think he will, probably win that job over the summer. But I think there's also some redeemable traits you're looking forward to, right? There's that deep speed, there's that yard after catch, there's that potential gadget plays you can instill. So I think it was a pretty solid draft pick. We'll see how fast he comes with the speed. We'll see how Cliff Kingsbury uses him, and we'll also see the war of attrition. It's a 17-week season. Maybe he might have to step up and kind of play a role at one point that we don't necessarily expect right now. So it's definitely have in our back pocket.
Yep.
So Mark, I don't know if you want to add any more to Lane, or I can start closing it out.
Yeah, you can start closing out. That's basically all I had on him.
Yeah, so I think you nailed it today, Mark. It was fantastic. It was very interesting. Next Wednesday, we're going to get together for one more Commander Film. Sorry, we're going to continue our series at the Commander Film Room. Mark, what do you have in store for us next week? We're looking at GCM, or what are we looking at?
Yeah, well, we'll see whether I can do a full hour on Medrano, Medrano, or whether I need to include JCM as well.
Okay.
Well, I'll have to put together the clips and figure that out. But
okay.
it will definitely be King Medrano, and then we'll see whether there's enough to do just him on his own and then leave JCM for the week after, or whether we put them both together into one show.
All right, sounds good. So we'll definitely do some film work next week. Thank you for everybody. We had 709 people watch our show live today. We had plenty of great comments in the chat. Thank you for chiming in. I appreciate that as well. Mark, thanks for the film breakdown. Definitely give him a follow on X at Mark Bullock NFL on X. You can definitely subscribe to his Substack. He produces content every other day or so. It's great work, great film study there. I'm George Carmi at GCarmi21 on X. You can follow us on YouTube at the Big Doug and Carmi Show. Have a great night, everybody. Peace out.